Vinícius Viegas's account of his near-death experience is a remarkable journey that crosses the boundaries between life and death. After a serious motorcycle accident that caused devastating internal bleeding, he suffered a cardiac arrest lasting over 11 minutes and was declared dead by the doctors. During that time, he describes leaving his body, witnessing the medical team's efforts to revive him. Hello, I'm Marcus, and it's a pleasure to have you here at Beyond the Life We Live. I hope you feel at home and absorb the lesson from the story we're about to share. By the way, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it's very important to us and helps bring more impactful stories to you. One morning, Vinícius was on his way to work, and as usual, he had a co-worker riding on the back of his motorcycle. When they were less than a kilometer from their destination, he suddenly became ill while riding, lost control of the vehicle, and crashed violently into a tree. The impact was brutal, especially in the abdominal area, causing severe internal bleeding that rendered him unconscious immediately. His co-worker, realizing how serious the situation was, quickly called for help. Fortunately, the fire station was very close to the accident site, allowing the ambulance to arrive in about 5 minutes. The paramedics rushed him to the hospital, where he arrived in critical condition. When the doctors examined him, they discovered that Vinícius's liver had split into 3 pieces due to the impact, causing massive hemorrhaging. The medical team immediately began procedures to stop the bleeding and try to save his life. It was during this emergency surgery that the extraordinary near-death experience reported by Vinícius began. At a certain moment during the operation, while the doctors were trying to stop the bleeding and repair his liver, he went into cardiac arrest and, at first, began to hear the voices of the medical team, even though he was unconscious. Then he felt like he was looking down at his own body from above, watching the whole scene as if he were floating above the operating table. In that position, he witnessed the moment when the lead doctor, believing there was no more hope, said,
"Time of death, please. He's been gone for 11 minutes and 17 seconds. He's not coming back."
But then, something unexpected happened. One of the doctors, as if she'd been suddenly inspired, started getting agitated and insisted,
"He's young, he's going to come back, he's going to come back. Hurry, give him adrenaline and defibrillate."
She began shouting at the nurse and the rest of the team to administer adrenaline and use the defibrillator. When they gave the first shock with the defibrillator, Vinícius says he saw his body jolt and rise. The doctor increased the voltage and shouted that he would come back. With the second shock, again, he saw his body jump and thud against the gurney. On the third shock, he felt his own body rise and hit the machine, but then he stopped seeing the scene, even though he could still hear what the team was saying. The heart monitor, which had been making a flatline tone indicating no heartbeat, began to beep rhythmically after the third shock, signaling that his heart had started beating again. During all the time he was out of his body, Vinícius felt a comforting presence beside him, as if someone were there to calm him and help him understand that he didn't need to be afraid of what he was witnessing. While the team worked to stabilize him, they discussed how to contain and immobilize his liver. After this critical episode, he fell into a coma, in which he would remain for 22 days. For Vinícius, the 22 days in a coma were a constant experience of movement and walking. That's because he was never still, and curiously, he was never able to look back to see who or what was behind him. Though he could sense a presence, he couldn't turn around to identify it. At first, he began walking in a place that seemed to be sand. While walking through this beach, 7 entities started walking beside him, 5 men and 2 women. Among the men, one appeared to be younger. These entities never touched him, although sometimes they came quite close. As he walked, he began to see people in very deteriorated conditions. Strangely, none of them were people he recognized. What intrigued him was that when he looked at himself, he appeared normal, no blood, wearing exactly the same clothes he had on at the time of the accident. After walking across this beach, he arrived at a darker place. In this place, he could hear people screaming in desperation. The whole time, he looked around without understanding what was happening, but to him, it all felt absolutely real, just as real as the reality we experience in daily life. Continuing his journey, he came to a place that resembled a desert. Right at the entrance to this desert, he saw beings with no clearly defined shape, strange, but very large. As he went deeper, he saw people lying on the ground everywhere, though there weren't as many screams here as there had been in the previous place. At a certain point, he reached a small hill and saw a man standing completely still, in a rigid posture, staring straight ahead as if on guard. Vinícius approached him, and at that moment, one of the entities walking with him said,
"It's no use. I'm taking one of you."
She repeated this phrase 3 times. Then, not understanding, Vinícius continued his walk. As the moment of waking from the coma approached, Vinícius believes he opened his eyes because the perspective of his vision changed. He saw what looked like a powerful spotlight focused only on him, not illuminating any of the other beds around him. That was when he heard a voice say,
Jeremiah 15. Jeremiah 15.
Up until that point, not being religious or a churchgoer, he didn't understand the meaning of that message. When he woke up, the first sound he heard was a heart monitor flatlining, that long tone indicating no heartbeat, and a nurse running and shouting,
"Hurry, hurry, the cop died! The cop died!"
It was the same police officer Vinícius had seen on the hill during his coma experience, who was on the bed next to his in the ICU. At the exact moment Vinícius woke up, the officer passed away. Today, he's convinced it was that entity who took him, the one who had said she would take one of the 2. Since Vinícius managed to wake up, she must have taken the other. One striking detail of Vinícius's account was his intense thirst upon waking. Even though he wasn't dehydrated because of the IV fluids, his mouth was extremely dry, and he begged everyone who passed by for water. A nursing technician, whose name he unfortunately couldn't remember, was the first to give him water. And when he finally drank it, he cried with emotion and thanked God for another chance at life. When Vinícius fully grasped the magnitude of what had happened, he asked for a Bible to read the passage mentioned during his experience. His mother asked if he should be the one to read it, but they gave him a large Bible that he couldn't read right away because his vision was still very blurry. Days later, when he was finally able to read the passage, he discovered it was a calling.
God telling Jeremiah that even before he left his mother's womb, he had called him as a prophet and had blessed him.
The experience profoundly changed his life. Although at the time of the experience he wasn't a religious person, he was later baptized in church. He began to question why he was given a second chance at life when he believed he didn't deserve it.